Hello everyone. In the previous video, we discussed about the entity set, relationship sets, and the various types of attributes used for representing the data in the ER model. Okay. Now let us discuss about another two important points, constraints and keys. Cardinality constraint, also called as cardinality ratio, expresses the number of entities to which another entity can be related via a relationship set. It expresses the number of entities to which another entity can be associated via a relationship set. For a binary relationship set between the entity sets A and B, there are four types of mapping cardinalities: one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. In the ER diagram, a directed line is used for representing one and an undirected line is used for representing the term many. Okay. So let us look into 1:1 mapping cardinality. An entity in A is associated with at most one entity in B. Similarly, an entity in B is associated with at most one entity in A. So this A1 should be associated with only one entity in the B, that is B1. Similarly, the entities in the A is associated with at most one entity in the B. That type of relationship can be called as one-to-one relationship. Okay. Example, an instructor advising at most one student. A student may have at most one advisor. So the relationship is 1:1, one-to-one relationship. Another example, a customer is associated with at most one loan via the relationship borrower. A loan is associated with at most one customer via the relationship borrower. So only one customer is having only a single loan. If you are going to have a constraint like this, then that type of a customer is associated with at most one loan via the relationship borrower. A loan is associated with at most one customer via the relationship borrower. That is also an example for one-to-one mapping. Now let us look into one-to-many relationship. An entity in A is associated with any number of entities in B. However, an entity in B can be associated with at most one entity in A. So the entity in A will be having the entities A1, A2, A3. So this A1 can be associated to any number of entities in B. It can be associated to either B1, B2, etc. Right? It can associate to more than one entities in B. But when we look into the relationship from B to A, an entity in B can be associated to only one entity in A. So that is B1 can be associated to only one entity from the entity set A. Okay, let us look into the scenario between the instructor and a student. An instructor is going to give advices to many students. So from the instructor to the students, we'll be having the many relationship. An instructor is going to give advices to many students, and each student will be associated with at most one instructor. Okay, from the student towards the instructor, the student is having only one instructor. So from the student towards the instructor, the mapping is 1, and from the instructor towards the student, the instructor is associated with many students, right? So the mapping is many. So look at the diagram. The figure shows that from the towards the student we will be having an undirected line. It shows that the many relationship from the instructor towards the student. And from towards the instructor, the line is a directed line towards the instructor, that is from the entity student towards the entity instructor through the relationship advisor. The relationship is, the mapping is 1, right? So it that is shown by the directed line. It points towards the entity instructor. Similarly, we'll be having the similar scenario in the customer loan relationship. A loan is associated with at most one customer, and a customer can have several loans. So that is also a scenario to explain that one-to-many relationship. Okay. Now let us look into many-to-one mapping relationship. An entity in A is associated with at most one entity in B. A1 is associated with B1. A2 is associated with B1. A1 cannot associate into more than one entities in B. But an entity in B can be associated with any number of entities in A. B1 can be associated to A2 and A1. Right? So this is the many-to-one mapping relationship. Let us look into the same scenario between the instructor and the student associated via the relationship advisor. In this case, an instructor is given with only one student, okay, and this student is associated with several instructors. Okay, an instructor is associated with at most one student via the advisor. That is, instructor is going to give advice only to one student, but a student is getting the advices from several instructors. Okay, so that is the scenario which explains the many to one relationship. Look at that diagram. The directed line towards the student shows that a student is associated with several instructors via the relationship advisor. Another scenario between the loan and the customer entities. A loan is associated with several customers via the relationship borrower, and a customer is associated with at most one loan via the borrower. Okay, that scenario also explains this many to one relationship. And the last type of mapping cardinality constraint in the binary relationship is many to many. An entity in A associated with any number of entities in B. Similarly, an entity in B is associated with any number of entities in A. Let us look into that instructor-student scenario. An instructor is associated with several students via the advisor, and a student is also associated with several instructors via advisor. Okay, so as instructor will be having several students for advising. Similarly, a student will be having several instructors for getting this advice. Similarly, this customer loan scenario, a customer is associated with several loans via borrower, and a loan is associated with several customers via the relationship borrower. So, in both the cases, it will be having a many-to-many relationship. We can have different types of notations for representing these mapping cardinalities in our ER diagram. So the simple star on the above of this line that connect between the relationship and the entity it signifies the term many. Similarly, the digit 1 signifies the term 1. Okay, it's an alternative method for representing the many relationship and one relationship in the Chen's notation. Similarly, we can have the undirected line or the directed line for representing the many and the one relationship in the Chen's notation. And in the crow's feet notation, we are having an entirely different type of notation. The plain line, the line itself signifies the one-to-one relationship. And if you are having a many relationship in either of the entities, then we should place an arrow at that particular entity end. Okay. In this here I represented many scenarios that represents the various mapping relationships. In the first case, one to many mapping relationship, it shows that a customer is associated with many loans, but a loan is associated with only a single customer. So from the loan towards the customer, we are having a one relationship, and from the customer towards the loan, we will be having many relationship. That means the scenario is a customer will be having several loans, but each loan is associated with only a single customer. That is the scenario one to many. And let us look into the many to one. So this customer, the relationship is many to one. That means a loan is associated with many customers, but a customer is granted with only a single loan. Okay, so from the customer towards the loan, the relationship is one. That is, a customer is granted with only a single loan, but this loan is associated with more than one customer, several customers. That is the case of many to one. And look at this third scenario, many to many. A customer can have several loans and a loan can associated with several customers. So that is the scenario that explains the many to many relationship. Okay. Let us discuss about the participation constraints. We'll be having two types of participation constraints, total participation and the partial participation. In the total participation, every entity in the entity set E is participating with at least one relationship in the relationship set R. That is a total participation. Every entity is associated with at least one relationship. Okay, now let us look into the scenario, student instructor scenario. Every student entity to be related to at least one instructor through the advisor relationship. Every student should get an advice from the instructor. So that scenario explains the total participation. Similarly, participation of a loan in borrower. Every loan must have a customer associated to it via the relationship borrower. For every loan account, there should have a customer, right? So that relationship is also a total participation. Okay, now let us look into the partial participation. As the term indicates that only some of the entities in E is participating in the relationship. Okay, let us look at that example. An instructor may or may not advise any students. Some of the instructor is advising the students, but some of the instructor is not advising any students. That is, the instructor with the associated via the advisor is partial. Similarly, the participation of customer in borrower is partial. That is, it is not necessary that every customer should have a loan. It is not at all necessary that every customer should have a loan account, right? Only some of the customers will be having loan account. So that participation is partial participation. Now let us discuss about a very important concept called as keys. What is a key? Why we need keys? What are the various types of keys? Let us discuss about that. Okay, in an entity set, no two entities are allowed to have exactly the same value for all the attributes, right? So one of the attribute or a set of attributes together are taken to uniquely identify a particular entity in the set. Such attributes are called as a key. That is, a key is a set of attributes whose values uniquely identify a particular entity from the entity set. So with the help of the key, we can uniquely identify. Suppose that we are having an entity set having 100 different entities. If I want to get a particular entity details, with the help of a key, we can quickly retrieve the data of that particular entity. So keys are a means of accurately identifying each and every entity. We can quickly search and retrieve the data. They help us to establish and enforces various types of integrity constraints to our data. Relationship between various entities of the database can be established with the help of these keys. Now let us discuss about the various types of keys. A super key is an attribute or a set of attributes that are taken collectively allows us to uniquely identify a particular entity. Consider an example, student, having the attributes roll number, name, semester, course, marks, etc. So if you are taking the roll number alone, we can identify a particular student in that particular class. But if we can have this same roll number in some other classes also, right? So if you are taking a database of students of NCA department, it is not possible to identify a particular student with the attribute roll number alone, right? So we'll be taking a combination of attributes. We'll be taking the roll number and name. So that one is also not enough to identify. We may have the duplicates. We can't get a unique we can't identify a particular entity uniquely. If you are taking that combination also, then we can take the roll number, name, semester and course together to identify a particular student from the entity set students. Okay, so that is the super key. So that an attribute or a combination of an attribute should identify a particular entity uniquely. Okay, that is the super key. Okay, this super key may contain some extraneous attributes. So the minimal super keys are called as candidate key. So the extraneous attributes are removed without losing the unique identification property. Okay, such keys are called as candidate keys. So though we are removing some extra attributes, the unique identification property should not be lost. Okay, so such type of keys can be called as candidate keys. For example, we are considering the student in an MCA course. We can have the attributes roll number, name, and semester. That three attributes togetherly identifies a particular, uniquely identifies a particular student entity, right? So one of the attribute from the super key is removed. Okay, but it is not, we are not losing the unique identification property. Okay, so such keys can be called as candidate key. From the candidate key, the candidate key should not have any extraneous attributes. Okay, we know what is a super key, what is a minimal super key. It is a candidate key. Candidate key is nothing but the minimal super key. Extraneous attributes from the super key is removed, right? We can have several candidate keys, and one among the candidate key is selected by the database designer and is termed as the primary key. Okay, so the primary key is one of the candidate keys selected by the database designer. Okay, so this, with the help of this primary key, we can uniquely identify the particular entity in the entity set. Okay, let us consider an example that keeps the details of an automobile. The primary key can be either the engine number or the vehicle registration number. Among these two primary keys, one of them will be selected by the database designer as the primary key. Okay, fine. That's about the primary key. Moving to the last type of the keys, that is foreign key, which is an attribute or a combination of attributes in one entity set that must either match the primary key of another entity set, or it can be null also. So this foreign key is actually referencing some other entity set. So this foreign key can be used for associating relationships with other entity set too. Okay, so foreign key is an attribute in one entity set that must either match the primary key of another entity set. So it refers another entity set. It refers the primary key of another entity set. Okay, so that's all about the various types of keys. Thank you.